All right, my lovers, let's go tubeless. Don't be scared. To go tubeless, you will need a tubeless compatible rim and tire. You will need a valve with a valve core. You will need rim tape. The rim tape, as a rule of thumb, should be 3 millimeters greater than the interior width of your rim. Either measure it yourself or usually the manufacturers will tell you the rim dimensions. You will need a compressor or an air shot to seat the tires onto the rim. You can use a wedge tool if you want, one of those plastic ones. Try to avoid metal, especially if you're using a carbon wheel set. Step number 1, tape your rim. Make sure to clean the rim, go slowly, avoid air pockets. If this is the first time, wrap twice. Once comfortable, you only need to wrap once. This is the part that I think people I see get scared about. If you're worried, just tape it twice. It's not that big a deal. I'm not by any means super mechanically inclined, and I had no problems. I just taped it twice the first time. When I felt comfortable, and I had done it a few times, I just taped it once. No worries. Step number 2, poke tape at the valve hole. There's going to be a valve hole in there. Usually that's where the tube will have the valve on it, but you're putting the valve in yourself. So step number 3, place that valve in there. Step number 4, put the tire on the rim, make sure it is completely on. If you've done tires with tubes in the past, it's very similar except for there's no tube there. It can be kind of like a little weird and tricky at first, like almost feel like it doesn't fit, but just be persistent, it'll get in there. I just kind of like to do one side at a time and get it all on and then do the other side. And by the end, if you need the tire wedge, you'll kind of know that you're getting it on tight. Now, once that tire is on, take that valve core out. You take the core out, you can screw it out. You can use a tool. I used the tool the first time. I ended up just being able to use my hands to just screw it out, but the tool is it's not bad. It works and it's fine. Then after you've taken the core out, you're going to compress air into it, or you're going to use that air shot. I've heard of people being able to just pump air into it and it seats, but I've not been able to do it myself. The air shot works pretty darn well. I don't have a compressor that can rapidly shoot air into it, because that's really what it needs. It needs a rapid shot of air in there, and that's what the air shot does. You pump it to about 100. It holds about 120 psi, and then it'll shoot it all at once. And that rapid rush will seat the tire, and you'll hear the sound of popping as the tire seats. Step number 7, you just disconnect the air shot of the compressor. The tire will deflate. Don't worry about that. The tire is seated. The whole goal of using that compressor is to seat the tire so that it stays onto the rim. Even if the tire deflates, it'll still be seated. Now, I like to do it the clean way and just use the syringe and pump, inject sealant through the coreless valve. Use the manufacturer's recommended amount. For me, that was 60 milliliters per tire. Then you reinsert that valve core, and theoretically you should just be able to use the tire pump to inflate it to the desired pressure. Shake the rim around to make sure the sealant gets everywhere. The best thing to do is kind of go for a ride so that the sealant gets to rotate all around the rim and just kind of coat the inside. Sometimes it really just takes a proper ride. It takes a little fiddling. If the tire is holding pressure, then you're in a good place. And usually past that, sometimes it won't hold the pressure. It'll have a slow leak in it. So I'll pump it up, but then I go back a few hours later and it's gone flat. So you just kind of have to check for that. But even if that is the case, usually with a ride and just shaking it and just checking the valve and making sure everything is securely fastened will solve most of the 99% of your problems. For day-to-day reliability, I honestly feel there is no competition between tubeless and tubes in terms of the type of riding you can do and the type of carefree riding you can do and the things that you can ride over. I have never been in a situation with tubeless where I could not make it home. It always held at least a bare amount of pressure for me to make it home and fix the problem in ways that with tubes, when it goes flat, it goes flat. And so, you know, I feel like sometimes with tubeless, the slow leak that happens when there is a problem still allows you to get back to where you need to go and just kind of keep pumping it up. And so I think overall for day-to-day reliability, it is far superior to me. But the initial setup is a pain in the butt. It just is. Even though it's not difficult, it just takes so many different little things like the valve core and seating the tires and injecting the sealant. All of those little things add up to it being a relatively annoying task where you have to be super methodical, I feel, in terms of it not annoying you. Right? Like if you think it's going to be a quick thing, then you will get frustrated. But if you realize, hey, it's going to take a minute, just let me give me 50 minutes per wheel, 50 minutes per wheel to change these over. One of the good things about tubeless tires is when I do change wheels, I oftentimes just save the sealant from the old tires and just switch it over, put it into a little basin, and I haven't had any problems with that. So for riders who want to ride more off-road, then I would say yes, absolutely is way more fun to ride on tubeless tires. But if you're just commuting and you're staying mostly to the roads, then it's not necessary.